What's up, guys? How's everybody doing? Welcome back to the Marset Perspective. 2 times in a row, got the name right. Go me. Let me tell you, I'm pretty fucked up this morning. I was jumping on, getting ready to record this podcast, and I was very prepared to say Happy Tuesday, and it is most certainly Thursday. So if that's any indication of how the week is going, it's been busy, and I guess I'm just feeling a little weird, feeling like the days are all the same. But that's fine for me. I mean, it is what it is. I just had to double check and make sure that I was being consistent, I guess. I don't know why it matters, because I usually upload these later, and I don't think you guys care anyway. But, just for the historical record, of course. Anyway, let me tell you, I feel like I've been starting these podcasts with an excessive amount of gratitude recently, and, today's not going to be any different, because I'm like genuinely blown away by the amount of people who keep reaching out and telling me about what they thought about a show that I did, or just feedback that they have, or just how excited they are, or there's so many things, and I genuinely mean that. I'm at a loss for words. Friends that I haven't spoken to in years, and it's just absurd to me how much people pay attention, and it just kind of goes back to that thing I was talking about the other day about just don't make decisions for other people. Stop choosing for them. You're gonna ruin a relationship, or at least have in your own mind you're gonna ruin a relationship, but you're gonna take time away from a person and away from yourself that could have been spent with people that you care about. And man, is this just a constant reminder of all of the incredible people that I've had in my life for so long. I consider myself to be stupid lucky. If you ever have heard the expression, it's better to be lucky than good. I can tell you from at least from my experience that I don't think I'm very good, but I'm very lucky, and it has worked out well enough for me so far, and I feel I'm super grateful for everything, because I'm one of those people that really believes that all opportunities stem from people. You can be very, very skilled at a particular thing, but if you don't have the right people around you, if you don't have good relationships, if you don't put in effort and try to help other people, then it's very likely that someone with less skill than you, but is surrounded by the right people, it's very likely that they'll get better opportunities than you will. For that reason alone, I really, really believe that. And I talk to a lot of my staff about this all the time, and it's a slightly different frame, but we always have these little phrases that we kind of sit back on, and I have a lot of lessons that I teach to staff over and over and over again, with new staff, or a couple times a year, or it comes up in conversations where it's a reminder, or you're reinforcing an idea. And in the same vein of I'd rather be lucky than good, I talk to a lot of personal trainers about how you determine who the best personal trainer is. And some people disagree with this, and they don't like it, but it doesn't change my opinion too much, mostly because you have to look at it from the sense of, are you affecting the maximum amount of people that you can, the most in the best way that you can. And so the phrase is, it starts as a question, who's the best personal trainer in the room? And depending on who I'm asking, people say funny things all the time. Some people are like, you are, and I'm like, kind of, maybe, but no. Some people say things like the smartest person, the person with the most certifications, all these things. And it's like, no. Like, all those things are great. Don't get me wrong. You want to be qualified. You want to have, a high skill level and all these things. But at the end of the day, saying someone is the best at a, service-based position, it's not really quantifiable, completely anyway. And so the way you determine who the best personal trainer is the person who has the most clients and whom keeps the most clients, right? You can't be a great personal trainer, let alone the best personal trainer, or really anything, if nobody knows about it and nobody cares. If nobody wants to be around you, if nobody wants to work with you, it's impossible to be the best. That's really awesome that you're a way more skilled trainer than I am, or you have way more information, or your techniques are better, or your education is better, whatever. But if you don't have any clients, and I do, I'm the only one who's going to affect any change. Does that make sense? So it's kind of in that same vein of I personally would rather be lucky than good. But I would rather be good at being around people and having good conversations with people, because I can learn how to do other things. So maybe that's a little rambly, maybe not. Maybe you guys got something out of it. I hope so. But I really think that about myself. I try really hard to work with people and be a person that they can trust and rely on, and really just a person that they don't feel like is going to judge them for their personal choices or their beliefs or anything like that, because I don't give a shit, right? Like, do you, be happy, it is what it is. Especially when you're in a service-based job, you're providing a one-on-one or a small group, right? You want to make people comfortable, and if they're comfortable and they feel like they can be themselves around you, then it's very likely that they're going to get better results than if they were really uncomfortable or didn't trust you or felt like on edge or like you were judging them or some shit like that. But yeah, that's kind of it. And I, kind of getting back on task here, I just feel disgustingly lucky and really, really grateful for all of these people. And, I was thinking about this the other day, and I really wanted to say it out loud, because it's really what this has been about for me, is taking the things that are in my head, and by saying them out loud, I make them real. Maybe that sounds weird, but it's incredibly freeing for me to be able to sit here and just kind of say what's on my mind, kind of work through some things. It's like working out. You're just kind of practicing and just kind of getting some things out, and sometimes people listen to it. And that's kind of my point, is if the amount of people that are listening now never changed, but I was able to just keep doing this, and even if it was even less, I mean, honestly, I really believe that, I would still want to do this. I would still be happy doing it. The fact that people are listening and they're telling me that it's even though it's been such a short time, it's affecting some kind of change, is so gratifying to me, and it's so moving to me. It's really hard to explain, because I'm not typically like a very emotional person, at least not out loud. I usually keep things to myself, and I kind of keep them close to the vest. And I'm more of a thinker, and I don't emote all that much. And so this has been a very drastic pivot for me to be doing this, and then have people reach out to me and talk to me about it. And it's just really wild. So, if the gratitude isn't doing it for you, sorry. Not really. But that's just how I feel. And the way that this works best for me is to just say how I feel, to talk about what I've got today. And that's really how I feel. And after yesterday, not yesterday, yesterday doesn't make any sense. After Tuesday, I typically will record one of these shows. I'll do it twice per day on days that I record, because I'm in the car for an hour both ways. And so if I've got something on my mind, I'll just say, whatever, I'll just pop it on and I'll just talk it out. It hasn't happened yet, but I suppose if it's absolute garbage, I could just delete it. It's unlikely that I'll do that, because I don't know, I feel like it's good for accountability to just keep going, even if it is bad. Nobody's perfect, and I don't pretend to be. But yeah, I guess I'm just explaining why I do something. You guys don't really care, so it's fine. But I usually do two of those recordings on those days, and I got to talking about FOMO a little bit, and it started to kind of trigger some other ideas, other things in my head that I think kind of related to it. And I don't know, I guess I have a lot to say on very similar topics. I guess I feel strongly about a few things that are pretty similar, and that's something that I'm recognizing in myself while doing this. And so that's cool, because it's giving me the opportunity to kind of dissect that and figure it out all on my own, and then have sidebar conversations with the people in my life after I kind of work it out on here. And so one of the things, we were talking about with like the FOMO and like wasting your time, and how, I kind of speak from the perspective I have, whether it's, limited or not, I guess for me is kind of irrelevant, because I'm just talking through what I've got. But it seems to me like a lot of those issues happen in young men, and they hide behind a lot of their insecurities by pretending to be someone that they think might be preferable. And one of the things that I have found myself saying a lot recently to explain, I guess, or to just kind of like rationalize a set of behaviors that I recognize, especially when I'm doing like interviews and things like that. Often in young men, it's I pick up on what I call fake masculinity, and that's not about like a gender thing or anything like that. It's more just like an oversimplification of when I feel like, okay, so let me think of it this way, right? So I think a lot more young men lack proper guidance than young men who don't. I think that there's a lot of young guys out there, and I'm sure there's a lot of young women out there as well, that that don't have great mentors, that don't have proper guidance, that have gotten some maybe really shitty advice, or maybe maybe they're watching a lot of stupid stuff on Instagram or YouTube or something like that. And I define stupid by like fads almost. You see a lot of people trying really hard to be right, to be correct, when they deep down know it's impossible for them to be the smartest person in the room. Which, in my opinion, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. If you are, you should find a new room. And I really truly mean that, because you should be trying to learn all the time, especially in an area where you're a beginner. Example being, if it's your first job, you should probably accept that you're a beginner. It doesn't matter how much college you've done. If you have no real world experience, you should be excited to take the skills you learned and put them into practice in the real world, right? That sounds rational to me. But I find that a lot of this fake bullshit masculinity is pretending to be tough and pretending to have all the answers. The pretending that their opinions are facts, or outright saying that. Yeah, I've had somebody tell me that their opinions are facts before, and that was interesting. But I see this as a pretty big problem, because I haven't really experienced this too much in my life, and maybe that's a shortcoming, I'm not really sure, but you certainly hear about it, on Instagram and other podcasts and stuff like that, where you hear about toxic masculinity and things like that. And I'm not so sure that I understand that fully well, because maybe it's a verbiage thing. I'm not sure. Maybe the words mean something different to me, because when I hear people talking about toxic masculinity, it kind of sounds a lot to me like what I call fake masculinity, which in my opinion is a serious weakness and largely an oversight based on ignorance. Kind of a fake it till you make it kind of deal, a bad advice kind of deal. Because whenever I hear about these situations of toxic masculinity or anything like that, I mostly just think that those people are weak. I mostly just think that those people are for the lack of a better term, I think they're kind of pussies. Sorry if that offends you. You probably should have read the fine print, I guess. Because when you look at what actually is masculinity, it's okay to be yourself. It's okay to be masculine in that you can be tough and empathetic. You don't have to choose one or the other. You can be nurturing and aggressive. You can be both of those things. But it's about identifying the times in which those tools are useful. I think as I'm kind of breaking this out, I'm kind of thinking of it more and more, and I think I'm starting to understand it a little bit better myself. And it's kind of like when a dude gets an F-150 and then that becomes his personality, right? Or dudes who only want to talk about NFTs or something. I guess that's a new thing now, right? But it's that fake masculinity when they learn those incorrect skills and behaviors. It's just ignorance. They're trying to work stuff out, and that's where I think it's really, really important to have a good mentor, have good guidance, like have somebody to check you, have somebody to be an accountability person. And that really just comes right back around to having like a strong circle of good friends and not ostracizing yourself or them, because those are the people who are going to be comfortable checking you, making sure that you're not getting too far ahead of yourself, or you're not behaving in a way that is inconsistent with what you say you feel and believe. And I think that's really important. You know, in previous episodes, I've talked a little bit about how everybody needs to be managed to some degree, and that's very true. And in this case, I think about how like a young man in particular learns, and it's kind of sad because it's not just men, it's women too, but like you go from like, okay, 10 to 13, you're a teenager, 13 to 15, you go through all these changes, it's not that much time. You haven't experienced that much more life. You know, for me, I was so ridiculous when I was a teenager and even into my early 20s. I had to, like, I dropped out of college because I just genuinely could not handle the freedom, because I was just making like crazy, really shitty decisions. And I wish I could tell you why I like came to my senses and chose. I think it was probably being so afraid of being in debt and just losing money for like literally just fucking off. But I ended up like enlisting in the army because I knew that, like, maybe not in the way that I know now, but at that moment I knew that I was wasting my time, I was wasting my money, I was just like getting drunk during the day, I was just doing a lot of like dumb things, and I was getting in fights, and I was like, I was that person. Maybe this is a projection. Oof, that's heavy. But I was that person. I did that like fake masculine bullshit where I, you know, tried to pretend that I knew more than I did, that I was stronger than I really was, you know, really egotistical, making bad decisions, not taking advice from people who genuinely had like my best interest in mind. But all that stuff kind of boils down to, when I was in college, I was only like 18 and 19, like right around that age. I wasn't that much older. I hadn't experienced that much more life, albeit I was trying to, but that's kind of part of it, like allowing yourself to, back to that acorn reference, allowing yourself to be in that position. Now, I had not a crazy unique, but like a semi-unique, like upbringing. It was me and my little brother and my mom. And my mom was divorced really, really early. And there was a whole crazy story as to like how that all went down and everything like that. But what really unfolded there was we moved around a lot. We didn't stay anywhere for very long until we got to Milford, Connecticut. And we moved in with my grandmother. And we stayed there. It was great. So don't get me wrong, you know, I'm okay. But the point is, like, up until that point, you know, when I was going into like middle school, I think it was, we moved around a lot, and I was the adult man, right? And there was no consistencies, no any of that. And the point is, I didn't want to take advice from anybody else because I had things that I had to take care of. And I wasn't even a teenager yet. Like, I wasn't even close. But I had this mentality of, I don't need anybody else to tell me how to do this. I just got to do this thing. You know, I've got it figured out. And the point is, I think it's really hard for young men in any situation to find themselves in any, what I would consider to be any reasonable amount of time, to start experiencing life in a way that is gonna like push them in a positive direction. And you know what? Now I really remember it, because I'm thinking about him now, and I think a lot of people are gonna recognize this as well. And I figured out just now why I decided to leave college and join the Army. And it was my wrestling coach and this guy named Brett Neihart. And Brett Neihart was a captain of the wrestling team when I was in high school. He was a few years above me, and when I was in middle school or something like that, he was trying to get me to wrestle, and so he was the reason why I tried out. And then obviously I ended up staying and doing that, and it was one of the highlights of my life, honestly. But it was because not only did I meet some of these guys that I was talking about in the previous podcast, but also our head coach, Matt Schoonmaker, Coach Schoon, he was him and Coach Jose Salgado, they were the first real mentors, in my life. The first genuine how do I say this? They were the first men I looked up to. And up until I had started doing that, I really felt wrestling, that is, I had really felt that I was on a weird path. And I again feel super blessed, and I mean blessed is a weird word to use, but I feel just so grateful and so fortunate to have ended up in the places that I did, because doing the interviews with my company now and meeting a lot of young guys regularly, I just see how easy it is for people to lose their way and to stay ignorant and to hold on to this fake masculinity. Because I remember as a younger guy thinking that I really didn't want to let these two guys down. I didn't want to be a shitbag, because I didn't want to prove them wrong for believing in me, for putting in so much time and so much effort, and giving me so many opportunities to just grow and learn. And it was one of those things where doing something difficult really forced me to get better, and it changed my mind even a little bit. Don't get me wrong, I was not there, but there as in ready to grow up and be an adult and do anything, because obviously I still went to college and fucked off for 2 years. But I have to attribute a lot of the decision to leave school to just them instilling this sense of responsibility in me, and just giving me, even if it was just this one tool, the ability to stop and just look back and kind of just reflect and determine hey, you're going in the wrong direction, you got to change direction. So I guess what I'm getting at here is it's already hard for these young guys to figure it out, and that fake masculinity, it doesn't have to be a negative thing. It could just be a byproduct of where they are in their life. And especially today, and when I say today, I mean 2022, we just went through and are continuing to go through pandemic and a bunch of nonsense, and everybody fucking hates each other, and everybody's super reactive and triggered by everything, and this is just another thing. And I worry about that because every day is an experience in your life, and whether or not that's a foundational experience and memory or not isn't necessarily your choice for every person you interact with. And so I'm talking about this and I'm thinking about this because empathy is a huge thing in my life over the last few years, because I never used to be empathetic to anyone about anything. Well, it sucks to be you. It was my mantra. I don't have to deal with that. And even for myself, I talked about disassociating from my future self. I've talked about that before. But what I'm getting at here is when you see a person whom is acting this way, this fake masculine bullshit, these triggering behaviors that are rooted in ignorance and ego and all these things, try your best to not just immediately judge that person, write that person off, attack that person. The fact is, you don't know anything about them. You don't know what their life has been like. You don't know how hard it is for them to just be where they are right now in the shape or the form that they are. That could be a defense mechanism. Don't get me wrong, it's not your responsibility to save anyone. But when it comes to developing relationships, developing networks, a network, solving problems, accomplishing a mission, you need people. And every day you're getting older, which means that someone else is being born and they're coming up and they're going through things that you've been through before, and they're experiencing things, and sometimes they have it a little easier, sometimes they have it a little harder. It doesn't really matter. What's constant here is that you have perspective based on time, and the fact is that they're a human person also, and they're going to have a relatively similar experience to yours. And if you write them off because you don't like their behavior at that current moment, then you're right, and it's over. But that person is going to go on, and they're going to continue existing and living, and maybe not learning, not getting any better, maybe never coming across another person who's willing to give them a shot or see them for what they really are, which is just a person who's figuring it out. Empathy will go a long way, and you'll be able to, without very much effort, you'll be able to positively affect people's lives in the long run. And I can say that really confidently because I am a person whom was not dealt incredible cards, at least initially, and without the input of many people, men and women, to just really have a shit ton of empathy and drive and just a willingness to look past my shitty behavior. Not look past, but see more to it. I don't know where I would be, what I would be doing. I don't know how I would think. I've had so many people shape the way that I view the world that I just can't even imagine, looking back at what was versus what is now. I don't even recognize how that could have happened. And I'll be honest, that's a big factor in how I think about raising my son and putting the effort into the little things. Things like, he's doing this really adorable thing right now where he like, he he does the little like finger gun, the thumb up and like pointing at you, and he drops his head. He says, "Good job, Dada." And I think it's so fucking adorable. But he does that because I try to remind myself every day that when he puts in a strong effort to something, or when he listens to something and he does the right thing, that I make sure to say, good job, Maverick, great job, like way to work hard. I give him a high five. We celebrate. Like, I try really hard to do that because I don't want him to grow up thinking that he doesn't have support. He doesn't have mentors. He doesn't have, like me in particular, to go to and talk to and bounce ideas off of, or to celebrate with him, right? And maybe this is me and like my own problems, but I think that, I've been told I have a savior complex before, that I try really hard to save people. And some people look at that as a negative thing. And honestly, I don't fucking care. I'll be honest. Because I think some people are worth saving. Now, they have to make the choice, right? They have to take responsibility for their actions. I have to take responsibility for mine. And I've got to own 50% of our interaction together, right? No matter how it goes. And what I mean by that is they have to, like, want to save themselves. And I'm not saying that to be, like, dramatic or anything like that. It's just keeping up with the saying, if you will. But they have to want to help themselves. But I don't think it's a wrong thing to want to help people either. I think in the same breath, you need to have a short memory, because you cannot help everyone. And if you take home all of that and you look at it as anytime you couldn't help someone, if you take it as a failure, then you're going to beat yourself up a lot, and you might pull back from other opportunities to help people. But at the end of the day, I think it's worth it. I think that there's too many people out there who display these really shitty behaviors, mostly because they don't have people. They don't have someone to put in a little bit of effort. They don't have someone to just take a second and think about, how they might be feeling, how they might be experiencing life. I was fortunate from the very beginning that I was just naturally athletic. And so I didn't shy away from sports. And I didn't give a shit about wearing a singlet in high school, which when I was in high school, that was one of the first things that people would say. They're like, "You mean I gotta wear a singlet? I'm not gonna do that. That's weird." I was like, I don't care. Whatever. Sounds fun to me, in terms of wrestling. We can fight all day. That sounds good. So I didn't shy away from athletics. And that afforded me the opportunity to be in the presence of two of the greatest men I've ever known. Right? And that right there is something that some people won't have access to, just because they aren't naturally gifted. So taking the time to just sit and understand and feel a situation out and feel a person out, rather than immediately judge them because you don't like the way that they behave, or you don't like how they carry themselves, or whatever the case is. If you look at it flatly, then like we said, sound like Carnage or Venom. Like I said, you're going to be right. You can write them off and have nothing to do with it, and that's fine. But if you're listening to this, then you're probably not that person. you probably do want to help, but maybe you just don't know how. And I really think it comes down to patience and empathy and time. You just got to be willing to see a person for what they can be, not what they are right now. Don't contribute to that person's life in the same way that all of their other failed people, right? The way that they did. They've had, I'm sure, plenty of shitty environmental experiences to end up in that way, end up behaving in that way. So, yeah, maybe it's me, but I see that fake masculinity, and I guess some people call it toxic masculinity, and I see it more as a burden to that person because it's a weakness. It's bad advice. It's a fake it till you make it type of attitude with something that they really need true and real guidance on. Something that, guidance that can only be provided from experience and perspective and struggle and failure, but with patience and empathy. I've probably said patience and empathy like 72 times. You guys are probably like, ugh, vomit already. God. It's fine. I don't mind. I'm in a car. You're somewhere else. You can't vomit on me, so it's fine. Is it weird that I make myself laugh? That's weird, right? That's fine. We'll unpack that some other time. Yeah, I guess I've got a lot of stories. I guess I've got a lot of things to unpack. So, which is good for me because it gives me plenty of things to talk about on my way to work and kind of just figure out about myself. So that way I can bring back to my therapist. So that way I can make his job easier, I guess. But yeah, I think that's what I have on that for now. So if I could leave you guys with anything in particular, men, women, girls, guys, whatever, I would say don't look at a person whom is displaying these albeit shitty behaviors and actions and immediately write them off. Try to see them for their potential and their interests and their future, and see if you are capable, see if you are the right person to provide them with some or maybe more empathy and patience and time, and provide them some mentorship, provide them some perspective, give them the opportunity to grow and change. We need to be allowed to make mistakes, not just as learners and beginners, but also as potential mentors and adults and professionals. This is the way to, in my opinion, a better future. This is the way to a stronger network, to stronger bonds, to stronger relationships, and better parenting and better workplaces. This is the way. We've got to talk. We've got to stop writing each other off. We've got to stop making choices for each other. We've got to stop reacting. We have to start trying to understand. So, wow, we went for a long time today, so I guess I had a lot to say about that. This is all I have for today. Well, not for today, but for this drive. This is all I have for this drive. And I just want to say thank you guys again. anytime any person takes a moment to reach out to me, directly, indirectly, it means a lot. And for what it's worth, I want you guys to know that I will respond to any message that comes to me. And we can talk for however short or long you want to. I really appreciate it. It makes me feel very good to do this and to hear from you, and I really love this. So thank you for that. Otherwise, let's just try to be better today, I guess, right? Let's just try to do a better job. Let's try to think before we react. All right, you know the deal. This has been the Marset Perspective, the podcast from my car, where we try to not be shitty people, and we have random rants, and sometimes I make superhero references and swear a lot. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.